local people, important issues. CBS 10 WILM's weekly focus on the Lower Cape Fear region. This is Byline Wilmington with your host, Don Ansell.
Welcome and good morning. Well, the issue of race in America has taken on yet another dimension with the election of Barack Obama. Today we're taking a look at the race card post-Obama with our guests. Dr. Earl Sheridan is a former head of the local NAACP, and by the way, that organization is celebrating their 100th anniversary this week. Dr. Sheridan is also a Wilmington City councilman. And also joining us is Dr. Leslie Hossfeld, who is an assistant professor of sociology at UNC Wilmington. And thank you both for being here. Good to see you both.
Good to be here.
Dr. Sheridan, let's start off with this scenario. It's election night, November, about 11 o'clock. Where were you? Who were you with? And what went through your mind?
Well, actually, I had just come off of television. I was doing some commentating on the election, and I came back home, and I got home right at about 11 o'clock.
When the networks were announcing.
When they were making the announcement. And so, I gave my wife a big hug. We were just really elated that seeing what had just transpired. It was an amazing moment.
Let me ask you the same, or let's pass the same scenario by you. It's where were you, and what went through your mind?
Well, I was at home with my son, who's 13, and we, were watching all the returns come in, and he's a mixed race child, and so it was very important to me that this was his president and something he could.
How old is your son?
13.
He's 13.
But I received calls immediately from all over the world, from friends in South Africa.
You taught in South Africa, did you?
That's right.
Yeah.
I taught at a university there. But it was just the joy that we felt at home to see this, and then to have friends from all over the globe calling. It was very, very special.
Race has always been a divisive issue in America. Did the Obama election redefine the race issue some?
Well, as a sociologist, we're empirical folks, so we like to look at the data and let that tell us things. So it's yet to be seen since Obama is in office. But, it's clear the color line is resilient in the North, in not just North Carolina, in our country. And so
when you say the color line is resilient, what do you mean?
Well, Du Bois' notion that the color line will always be this problem that we have in the United States. So while we have the symbol of what could be, we will see if the data shows that the earnings change or that access to resources change.
What do you think, Dr. Sheridan? Well, I think the importance is really of tremendous symbolic importance for everyone in the United States and around the world. The United States has been put forth as kind of the beacon of democracy, and to a certain degree, the Achilles heel or the smudge on our image as the beacon of democracy has been race and the existence of racism in American society. And I think people around the world look at us electing an African American as president, and that has tremendous symbolic importance to the world as well as to people here in this country.
There was, of course, a great deal of exuberance at the election of Barack Obama. How does a presidency live up to that kind of expectation, and are circumstances setting him up for a fall? We love to build people up and then tear them down in this country in some ways.
Well, he's a great pragmatist. I mean, he has certainly selected a cabinet that has all these different dimensions. I think he thinks things through. I think he is up for an enormous battle, but
which is not unusual for a president.
Well, heavens no, right? But his are seemingly insurmountable with the economy the way it is. Unemployment numbers are at all-time high.
He has a huge task in front of him. I mean, you're right. Things usually are kind of difficult for a new president, but he's coming in at a time with 2 wars going on. He's coming in at a time with almost an economy that we haven't seen this bad since the Depression, and it's just a tremendous
his
task.
his supporters or his people, his cabinet and advisors would say big challenges offer big opportunities.
That's true. That's a good way of. That's a good way of looking at
that's
things.
the upside.
because you can take bold steps at a time when there are big problems, and so I think that's a good way of looking at it.
You mentioned symbols and images and how important they are in a way that frames us as Americans and who we are. For the first time, we have an African American family inhabiting the White House, the first family. And to Americans, that usually or traditionally represents the ideal family. Mm-hmm. Does that have an impact? Is there something to that, Dr. Hossfeld?
Yeah, I mean, they do certainly represent a traditional family. I mean, they are a married couple with 2 kids. I'm not sure that's how families look in the United States today, but they certainly go back to an image of a traditional family.
Does it have a strong impact on America, that image of a black family in the White House as the ideal
heavens, yes. Right.
family?
And again, these symbols are really important. But what we do know about families in the United States is they don't necessarily look this way. And then I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about the structure of a 2-headed household with kids. It's, you know.
But should we model behavior? I mean, shouldn't we model what?
Well, I think as a sociologist, embracing different notions of family is not a bad idea, because the reality of people's lives are very complicated. And so, but right, I mean, in terms of race, this gives us an image we have never seen before, and so this is very important. So.
Your take on that?
And I think it's, again, getting back to the idea of symbolism, I think it's important symbolically. It's, you know, so many times you watch the news and or even watch television or movies and see black families portrayed. You know, they're dysfunctional families. They are they're families that are where there's no father in the home, and sometimes I think people begin to think that, well, that is the black family or whatever. And I think it's important for people to see that there are, as Leslie says, that there are lots of different kinds of family out there, and there are lots of black families that do have the as well the mother, father there, and they're gainfully employed and that kind of thing. And I think it's a good thing for young people to look at and to see that there are some
positive
Cosby types out there to a certain extent, because in a sense this is almost the Cosbys come to the White House to a certain degree.
We're going to talk about the Huxtables actually and what that whole scenario meant to America in the race card post-Obama. So stay with us, we'll be right back.